Okay, good morning, everyone, and afternoon. So here we are for our weekly hypnosis talks with me, Jessaiah, and of course, the great Pete. And we've decided today to talk about something over perfection. Oh no, what particular
Progress.
progress?
Yeah.
Progress over perfection. So, if you have any questions, type them in and we'll go ahead and get started. So, good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
Tell us
Yeah.
about progress over perfection.
Yeah. This is one I would say for me, it's very important because I think it's important for us to remember we're never going to be perfect, right? There, there's nothing in our life where we can really go into going, I'm going to be perfect at it. And we really need to take time to understand the really, I guess, the progress of being progressive, right? Um, and what that means for me is understanding I'm not perfect and I need to give love to myself, compassion, and even acceptance when I don't do something as well as I thought I would. And I find it with a lot of my clients, and I say even myself, when I don't meet my own expectation, my first inkling is to go, you know what? Screw it. I quit, right? I'll just do something else. Um, and for me, one of the most important things I have to remember and is that I've never been perfect at anything, especially when it's new. You know, I think about my first client. Ugh, right? That was one I wish I could go back and be like, I'm better now. It didn't go well at all. Uh, then even before that, growing up, right, learning how to read and write, these were all things in my life that realistically I wasn't good at first, right? I struggled even riding a bike, right? So I really had to discover that self-compassion for myself to go, my entire life, I have never been good when I've done something new. And even with those times, because I was compassionate and I accepted that I wasn't good and I gave myself love, I became good. You know? And so I think when we can really understand that it's progress over perfection, good things will happen. You know, we gain the insight and the balance and the mindfulness and the self-care we need as we grow.
So, what about for people that, self compassion's a very difficult, you know, place to jump to? Like, they don't even have a bridge from the place that they're at to self compassion. Like, what are some practical tips that people could do to start gaining access to that or familiarity?
Yeah. One of the best things we can really understand is knowing our brain is ultimately working against us. But it's not working against us because it wants to work against us. It's really trying to keep us safe. So, since caveman time, right, it needed to be aware of the dangers to protect us. Um, and for that reason, the reptilian part of our brain still holds on to that, right? It still holds on to the idea that it needs to, I say, stay aware of the negative stuff in our life to keep us safe. But it doesn't make the negative stuff true, you know? But it's easy. If we think about, like, I think a big one is embarrassment, right? When we think about how many times we've been embarrassed, we can probably find countless times. But when we try and think about someone else being embarrassed, it's hard for us, right? Because we don't think that way about other people, right? We typically go, oh, I can't think of a time where someone else was really embarrassed, but I can really name the times I was embarrassed. That is our mind working against us. It's saying, hey, everyone's noticing my imperfections, but I don't notice theirs, you know? And when we become aware of that idea that a lot of the stuff is just our inner workings going on and no one else recognizes, we get to begin to build upon our successes. So one of the, I say the best techniques and strategies I ever learned is really called success stacking, which essentially take out a piece of paper, right? Sit down and write all the things you have been successful for in your life. And there's nothing too big, there's nothing too small, because ultimately everything we learned was hard in the beginning, right? Even walking, right? We look at babies when they're learning to walk, they're struggling until they're not. But then we just take it for granted as if it was no big deal, right? But it was a very big deal, right? When we learn to get dressed for ourselves or use eating utensils or learn to run or drive or ride a bike or read or write or, right? All these things are successes in our life that we now take for granted. But because we take them for granted, we kind of brush off the value that they have done for our lives. Because imagine, like, if I never learned how to talk, how would my life be completely different now? Right? If I never learned how to walk, how would that have changed my life? Or never learned how to think or, do and understand these techniques, like how would my life be completely different? And so when we can really look back on our lives and go, wow, like these are the successes I have had. Nothing too big, nothing too small. And then when we get hit with that new thing, right? That thing that tells us there's no way, this is too hard, this is impossible. And we read that list of impossible things that we have done, it's pretty remarkable, right? And we get to get that courage, that motivation. I'm a big movie guy. One of the movies, I think it was Through the Looking Glass, which is like an Alice in Wonderland thing. A big part of it was, I want you to think of 7 impossible things before breakfast. And that always stuck with me because it's, I want to think of 7 impossible tasks that I have completed, right? That I felt were impossible in the beginning, because that's how they became possible. And so when we can really have this list and read it whenever we need it, we begin to tip that scale, right? That part of our mind that looks for the negative. We're saying, yes, that negative is there, but here's also a lot of positive, right? That's what we can do to really begin to go, I got this, right? I can bring that balance and self-care and that ability to go as progress over perfection.
And another thing too is that it feels like when you feed yourself a different focus, you're giving that muscle of that brain, that reptilian, like finding all the bad, trying to keep you safe and everything. You're like reminding it, showing it, training it, putting the like ruts in the road for the wheels to like go down that way. There's another way. And that's kind of the way I think about it, is that wherever the rut bend, they're just going to naturally go down there. But we do have access to creating aspects of our lives. And I feel like I'm on this topic a lot, but I really do feel like so many people think that what is like, well, my brain just does that. Thoughts just happen. Life is like that. I feel like that's a common thread for a lot of people. And I think there's no doubt that we are, like subject to life, but it doesn't mean we don't have some aspects of, ability to co-create, to be, the leader of our lives as well. Doesn't mean you still won't get, beat down or something won't happen or what have you, but we have access to at least do more than a lot of folks know. Right? I mean, I didn't know. Like I was told, but I didn't know until I had to go through it. And then I was like, oh, I can, you know. And it was impossible at first, by the way. It was.
Everything is impossible at first.
And so I guess actually that ties into that progress over perfection where you're just like, I can't think of something positive, or I can't, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But then if you keep doing it more and more, just like walking, talking, writing cursive, reading, we get to that. So yeah.
Right. And it's amazing. Like for me, progress over perfection, we understand it in so many other areas of our life, right? When we're trying to build muscle, every personal trainer out there will be like, hey, it's progress over perfection, right? If you can lift 10 pounds today and 12 pounds next week, you're getting there, right? When it comes to creating a good habit, right? They're always like, it's progress over perfection. It's you can't go in at day one going, you know what? If I've never brushed my teeth and now I'm going to brush it every day, and then you miss a day, you get discouraged and you go, oh, screw it, I'll never brush my teeth again. But if you go, you know what? This week I did it, once a day, or one day of the week. The second week you did it 2 days of the week. The third week you did it 3 times, and then it's 2 times a day. Then it's 3 times a day. It's not impossible anymore, right? It becomes easier. If you think about it in like NLP, what you're essentially doing is you're chunking it down into steps that are easy to digest and accomplish. And then you become really good at it, and it becomes second nature, where you were like, I'm doing this my whole life, right? When we're children, we learn the alphabet. They don't give us the whole alphabet. They give us one letter, right? They're chunking it down to one piece. And when you get good at that piece, you add the second piece and then the third. What a lot of us want, though, is we want to go, you know what, Pete? I've been overweight my entire life. I'm tired of being overweight. I want it gone tomorrow. And it's like, I understand that. I'm the same way. I want it gone tomorrow. But I understand that's not how it works, right? We can't be delusional in that way and go, all of a sudden it's gone. But we get to go, you know what? I'm making a healthier choice, right? For a lot of people, I'm like, you know what? For breakfast, let's just start there. If you're not eating breakfast, let's start eating breakfast and start with something healthy. Then when that becomes a normal part of your everyday routine, let's work on lunch. And then let's work on dinner. Then let's work on exercise instead of doing it all at once, because that's overwhelming. And people go, I can't do that. That's impossible.
Well, what I think it also does is that when we, it's so much easier to want something than to do it, and then it's so much easier to be discouraged than it is to take the steps, right? And I think also, especially in regards to like hypnosis, self hypnosis, change work, there is a lot of things that can be done in the mind, with the physical things, right? And so that's some of the stuff I'd like to just kind of talk about, like just some other practical tips. Like, absolutely, if you want to lose weight, starting with your breakfast is really important, and starting to think about working out once a week, and and having self-compassion. Like, these are like active physical steps. And I thought it'd be fun to just talk a little bit about like what are some of like the mental steps that you can do as well, because what we believe, how we feel, and how we think are absolutely dictating our actions or our ability to take action or not take action.
Yeah. So the easy answer is repetition, right? We need, especially when it comes to what we think, we have to understand it takes repetition of a new thought to become a normal thought, right? And it doesn't matter if it's, you know what, I'm going to be the world's best athlete, or I am going to just get straight A's in school this year, right? It takes that constant, you can't just think it once and have it become part of your life. It needs to be in the forefront of our mind every moment of every day, right? Now with hypnosis, I love it because it takes some of that pressure off, because we get, unfiltered access to the unconscious mind, which makes it easier. But we also have to understand the conscious mind and unconscious mind have to work together, right? We have to have that conscious awareness to go, oh, this is actually moving away from where I'm trying to achieve, right? But when you consistently think about it and feel, right? So this is one where I'll take from Napoleon Hill. It takes the thought plus emotion to create an action. If you have just emotion and no thought, there's no action. If it's just a thought and no emotion, there's no action. It takes both. So when we think about that from a hypnotic standpoint, thought comes from the conscious mind, emotion comes from the unconscious mind. It takes both. And we have to be aware of that. And so one of the programs I run for me is a 90-day program where it's daily action based on your thoughts and emotions, right? It's really reprogramming your thoughts and emotions into that desired action. And some people have used it to start a business. Other people have used it to lose weight and everything. It's because it's all realistically the same. Is you're reading the new thoughts that you're having, you're experiencing the new feelings on a daily basis. Then your actions will fall in line. And so what I have them do is I have them record their daily actions, the things that they were grateful for and proud of that day, to something they could have done better, right? Because at the end of every week, we go over and reflect everything, and they see their progress, right? And they go, Pete, I'm not perfect yet. I'm not there, but I see the progress. I know I'm doing it. Come day 90, they are almost a different person from when they started, because they really brought their thoughts and emotions in a line in a daily way to create that action.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Um, well, we have a few more minutes. I'll just share real quickly what I decided to do, which I think fits in with this a little bit. And I don't even know where it came from, but I thought to myself, well, I haven't been wanting to wake up the past few days. I've just been like, just loving my sleep. And I was thinking, okay, when I open my eyes, I want to feel a certain way, or, like be a certain person for today when I open my eyes, trying to motivate myself to open my eyes. And I chose to go through the alphabet and find a word A through Z, that were like words, and just to kind of like fill me up, to fill up my cup and fill up the personality and the person that I wanted to be before I opened my eyes. And took me about 5-6 times today because I was still just so tired. But it was very interesting. And so I just went like, A, for example, these aren't exactly my words, but like A, ambitious, B, being, C, communicative, D. And I just went throughout the list, and I just felt really cool. Like, and so to me, I think, this is one tip, like one way that you can start to kind of play with your mind, getting new thoughts in there, new, activities, because you could certainly be laying in bed, worried, shaming yourself, thinking about all the things you did wrong in third grade or what have you. Or you could go A through Z thinking of, qualities or aspects that you want in your life or in your day that day. And then once you get to Z, get up and get going, or go back to A if you need to do it again. So I found that a nice exercise this morning, and I'm definitely going to do it some more times. And, I think like there are just so many ways to, also I think, just to touch on what you were saying, like, the conscious and the unconscious, they have to come together in order for this action to take place. And I feel like that's also sort of like shadow work, where, you know, once you've brought something out to the light, then the consciousness is aware of it, so action can happen. And so I feel like, you know, there's a lot of ways that instead of doing what you're letting your mind do what it's used to doing in its very reptilian form, you can begin to pay attention and get conscious of some of the stuff that's going on, and then make a choice to add something else in, to play different word games, to do different visioning. And, you know, it's more accessible to some than others, but like start with the alphabet, or just start with, like, you know, one affirmation, or, you know, play a game where you're imagining yourself at your best. So those are just some ideas of things that, you know, places you can start. You can do it in traffic, you can do it in bed, you know, you can do it while doing the dishes, or you can really lay down with some nice music and a candle and really, you know, get into it. So
I like
yeah.
that.
Any last words today for progress over perfection?
Yeah, I said the one last thing I will say is I get when we make a change or want to make a change, we think, and I'll just use like weight loss as an easy example. If we go, all right, so I got to cut back on sugar, I got to eat more protein, I got to exercise more, right? We're listing off many things that we got to do to change. And that is very overwhelming. It is easier to go, you know what? I'm going to cut out sugar by replacing my soda with water. And that's how I'm going to start, right? Get used to that. If it comes to affirmations, right? Because we all want more confidence, more self-love, more abundance, more everything, right? That's, again, overwhelming. We got to start with one affirmation, right? Let that really become part of our lives before we add the second one, right? And then wait till that one is really part of your life before you work on a third. Nowhere does it ever say we have to work on everything all at once. This is a life, this is a journey, this is progress over perfection, right? That's, I think, the best thing.
Yeah, so take it slow, one step at a time, really, with that self-compassion, and knowing that you know, just being is enough. And you can just take little bite-sized pieces on your journey, and to be easy on yourself. Right? There's a way. It's, you know, I think that the ideal is to be easy on yourself while trying to move forward. You know, it seems like there's a really cool balance there that a lot of us as humans can learn, you know, how to do, to have it both. And, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Right on. Well, thank you so much for today, as always, Pete. And as always, anyone who has any questions, get in touch with us either way through all the social media things. And you can also, you know, offer some ideas. If you have questions, we can definitely do a talk about them. So
Yes.
until then, I hope everyone has a great week, and
Thank
ciao
you.
for now.
Bye.